This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by the folks over at Dipstick Vapes, makers of the innovative Dipper Vaporizer, the multi-use concentrates consumption device that you can use as either a traditional pack-and-go vape pen or with a quick swap of a vapor tip atomizer, can use it to vaporize extracts directly like some kind of magic vape straw. You can forget the butane and blowtorches when you have a dipper in hand. And when you use the discount code MJ today over at dipstickvapes.com, not only do you save 15% off the cost of the already affordable Dipper Vaporizer, but you'll also generate some money for our friends over at Students for Sensible Drug Policy, who Dipstick Vapes will donate to the amount of money you saved. You win, SSDP wins, Dipstick Vape wins. Michael Scott would be proud. Harness a little bit of that win-win-win magic by using the discount code MJ today over at dipstickvapes.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, June 1st, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 259 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day brings us out to Nevada, where a planned July 1st rollout of the state's legal adult use marijuana market is in jeopardy of being pushed back thanks to a lawsuit filed by a group of liquor wholesalers. The Independent Alcohol Distributors of Nevada is upset with a provision in the regulations allowing for the early startup of the adult use market this summer that allows companies that aren't liquor distributors to distribute legal adult use marijuana. Under the state's adult use laws, liquor distributors will have an 18-month head start on legal marijuana distribution, but the early phase that starts in July would allow for any company to receive temporary distribution licenses. On Tuesday, a district court judge agreed with the reasoning presented by the booze distributors, enough to order that the state cease issuing the temporary distribution licenses while he further considers the case. This is likely to delay that July 1st start date. We'll track this one as it develops. Turning our focus up north to Canada, we find news of the country's Conservative Party pushing back against the idea of allowing Canadians to grow a small number of marijuana plants at home once adult use marijuana is legalized nationwide sometime next summer. Currently, the proposed legalization legislation would let Canadians of age grow up to 4 plants per household, a number that's actually fairly low in comparison to most U.S. states with legislatively protective Homegrow, where most lower limits are around the 10 to 12 plant range per household. As you might expect, the opposition to Homegrow comes from lawmakers who appear to not know very much about how marijuana actually works. Leafly quoted one clueless prohibitionist lawmaker who feared that children could eat raw marijuana left out by parents. MP Marilyn Gladu said, quote, "Kids eat plants all the time because their parents do not put them up in the cupboard," unquote. That same lawmaker thinks that allowing Homegrow would somehow turn kids into drug mules, presumably by parents who would be so overcome with the vapors of the growing marijuanas so as to lose their senses and start to sell drugs through their kids, because that happens. Our final top story of the day is the recognition given yesterday of marijuana's medicinal properties by David Shulkin, President Trump's Secretary of Veteran Affairs. Mr. Shulkin was asked about the push by the American Legion to reschedule marijuana to allow it to be more freely used as a medicine and said, quote, "Some of the states that have put in appropriate controls, there may be some evidence that this is beginning to be helpful, and we're interested in looking at that and learning from that," unquote. As Tom Angel over at MassRoots is reporting, Mr. Shulkin, who previously served in the Obama administration as the VA's Undersecretary of Health, wrote in a letter last year that he, quote, "wholeheartedly agrees that the VA should do all it can to foster open communication between veterans and their VA providers, including discussion about participation in state marijuana programs," unquote. Personally, I would be more excited about this news if there was any kind of consistency between what anyone in the Trump administration says and what they do, but there isn't, so I'm not. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Dipstick Vapes, makers of the innovative Dipper Vaporizer. You've heard me talk about the two main uses of the Dipper, where you can use it as a traditional pack-and-go vape pen, or with a quick swap of the vapor tip atomizer, use it like a magic vape straw to vaporize concentrates directly. What I haven't talked about yet is a very cool extension of that second magic vape straw feature. By adding in the dip whip accessory, you can connect your dipper directly to a traditional dab rig and use it just as you normally would, just without having to use butane or a blowtorch. The easiest way to see all the cool things that you can do with the dipper yourself is to open up dipstickvapes.com, where you can watch videos, read their FAQ, and buy your own dipper and dipper accessories. And don't forget, when you use the discount code MJ today when you check out, you save 15% off the cost of the already affordable dipper, and you'll generate a donation in that same amount from Dipstick Vapes to our friends over at Students for Sensible Drug Policy. One last time, that's dipstickvapes.com, discount code MJ today. All right, time for the Blitz. Yesterday, Vermont Republican Governor Phil Scott said that if legislators made the proposed changes he suggested when he vetoed an adult use legalization measure last week, he would reach out to Republican state lawmakers and encourage them to put the revised bill to a vote. As I reported on recently, there is some concern in the Green Mountain State that Republican legislators could use parliamentary procedures to scuttle any hope for putting the legalization legislation back up for vote. With the state's special 2-day session set to start on June 21st, there aren't that many days to craft a compromise, but certainly enough if I've seen enough episodes of West Wing, and I have. This is certainly a story that we'll be tracking as it develops. In Wisconsin, a new proposed bill to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of marijuana was highlighted earlier this week by the Republican state lawmaker who introduced it. At a press conference on Tuesday, Republican State Senator Adam Jarchow pitched his bill as a common-sense solution to what he called, quote, a difficult issue. If passed, his legislation would make the possession of up to 10 grams of marijuana a municipal violation punishable by at most a $100 ticket. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper signed a bill on Tuesday that raises the special sales tax levied on legal marijuana sales from 10% to 15%. The bill signed was a larger package that raises taxes in a number of ways to help plug holes in the state's transportation, health, and education budget. We turn further west to California, where also on Tuesday, the state Senate voted in favor of a ban on the smoking of marijuana within the confines of a motor vehicle. The new ban would apply to both drivers and passengers, no matter if the vehicle was in motion or parked. The proposed measure now heads to the state assembly for their consideration. The Washington Post has a good piece up about the complexities of regulating the operation of motor vehicles while under the influence of marijuana. Regular listeners know that this issue is not a clear-cut black and white matter that's easily solved like when dealing with alcohol, where there is a very clear connection between the amount of booze measured in one's bloodstream at any given moment and the exact level of impairment at that moment. That's the important thing there. We can measure how inebriated someone is from drinking alcohol with a very easy test that gives an easy to understand number, also known as the blood alcohol content. With marijuana, that's not the case at all. There's no known biomarkers that indicate how high someone is at any given moment, and it's not entirely clear that being high on marijuana is actually all that disruptive to a person's ability to safely drive a car. This is a good story to click over for the full read. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Turning back to California for this one, we have a proposed state assembly bill to ban publishers from advertising marijuana products or services to people under the age of 21. LA Weekly has the story and a quote from a fact sheet released by State Assemblyman Ed Chow, who is sponsoring Assembly Bill 76, which would ban, quote, an operator of an internet website, online service, online application, or mobile application for marketing marijuana products or marijuana businesses to a person under the age of 21, unquote. As LA Weekly is reporting, that has a lot of people in the publishing world worried, what with it being a pretty dangerous thing to hold publishers liable for the content of their advertisers. This is another good one to click over for the full read. Our final story today is a good roundup by the Las Vegas Sun of the remaining proposed bills left to be worked over in the Nevada state legislature that deal with marijuana policy. There are just a handful of days left in this year's legislative session, and 8 marijuana bills are still left either to be considered by Governor Brian Sandoval or still up for debate by the state legislature. Swing over to Las Vegas Sun for all the wonky details there. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Dipstick Vapes, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.